Halun looked at the letter in her hands for the 5th time. The paper was thick and had a strange, shimmering quality that no earth material could match. The Korean Agricultural Institute's logo sat small in one corner, while the grand seal of the Stellar Council took up most of the top of the page. She still could not believe what she was reading. "You have been selected," she read aloud in her empty lab, "as Earth's candidate for the Interstellar Botanical Exchange Program." The morning sun streamed through the greenhouse windows, making the rows of experimental rice plants glow green. These were her pride and joy, rice that could grow in salt water. 3 years of work had gone into creating them. Now, it seemed those same plants had caught the attention of beings from other worlds. Haeun sat down on her worn lab stool. At 28 years old, she was the youngest lead researcher at the institute. Some people said she got lucky. Others said she worked too hard. The truth was, she simply loved plants. Every seed, every sprout, every leaf held a mystery she wanted to solve. The sound of footsteps made her look up. Director Kim was walking between the plant rows, his old face wrinkled with a kind smile. "I see you got the letter," he said. "Yes, sir." Haeun stood up quickly. "But there must be some mistake. The Stellar Council barely talks to humans. They think we're too—" She searched for a polite word. "Primitive." Director Kim chuckled. "Yes, that's what they think. Or what they used to think. Your saltwater rice changed some minds up there." He pointed at the ceiling, but they both knew he meant much, much higher. "My rice? But it's just a simple change. We only adjusted 3 genes." "Simple." The director shook his head. "Haeun, you made rice grow in the ocean. Do you know how many worlds out there are mostly water? How many colonies struggle to grow food on salty soil?" He picked up one of the pot labels, reading it carefully. "Sometimes the simplest solutions are the most brilliant." Haeun felt her face grow warm. "The letter says I have to prove humans can help galactic society. How can I do that? I've never even left Earth." Director Kim walked to the window. Outside, the Institute's test fields stretched toward the mountains. "When I was young," he said, "my grandmother had a small garden. Every spring, she would say, 'Good plants grow anywhere, if you understand what they need.'" He turned back to Haeun. "You understand plants better than anyone I've ever met. That's why they chose you." "But the photosyntheans," Haeun started. Everyone knew about the photosyntheans, the plant-like aliens who controlled most of the galaxy's food production. They had made it clear they thought humans were barely better than animals. "We'll have to accept you as their student," Director Kim finished, "and maybe learn something themselves." His eyes twinkled. "After all, they've been trying to grow food in salt water for 300 years. Haeun looked down at her rice plants. They swayed gently in the breeze from the ventilation system, strong and healthy despite growing in water 3 times saltier than the ocean. She had solved that puzzle. Maybe she could solve others too. "When do I leave?" she asked. "The ship arrives tomorrow." Director Kim handed her a small datapad. "This has everything we know about botanical research on the Nexus station. It's not much, but it's a start," Haeun finished. She took the pad, already thinking about what seeds to bring, what equipment she would need. A thought struck her. "Director Kim, why did you recommend me for this?" The old man smiled again. "Because you don't see problems, Haeun. You see puzzles waiting to be solved." He walked toward the door, then stopped. "Oh, and you might want to pack quickly. The ship lands at dawn." Haeun watched him leave, then looked back at her rice plants. "Well," she told them, "it looks like we're going on a journey." She carefully picked up one of the pots. These seeds would be her proof that humanity had something to offer the stars. She just hoped it would be enough. The botanical nexus was enormous. Haeun pressed her hand against the viewing window as the transport ship approached the space station. It looked like a giant flower, with 6 huge petal-shaped sections spreading out from a central hub. Each petal glowed with different colors from the thousands of plants growing inside. "Impressive, isn't it?" a voice said behind her. Haeun turned to see a tall man in a blue uniform. "I'm Du Young. I'll be your guide here." Another human? Haeun couldn't hide her surprise. She had expected to be the only one. Do Young smiled. There are 12 of us now. Well, 13 with you. I've been here 5 years. He pointed to the different sections of the station. Each pedal is a different environment. Hot, cold, wet, dry, high pressure, low pressure. We can grow anything here. The ship docked smoothly. Haven held her case of precious seeds tightly as they walked through the airlock. The air inside the station smelled like a greenhouse, warm, moist, and full of life. They didn't get far before meeting their first photosyntheon. The alien was tall and green, with leaves instead of hair and bark-like skin. It looked down at Helun with 3 yellow eyes. This is the new Earth specimen. The photosyntheon asked Du Young, not looking at Heun. This is Heun, Du Young said firmly. The botanist who created saltwater rice. The photosyntheon made a rustling sound that might have been a laugh. Ah yes. The simple gene modification that took your people only 3 centuries to achieve. Heun spoke up. Actually, it took me 3 years. All 3 yellow eyes turned to her. Impossible. Our calculations show such an adaptation would require at least 50 years of work. Your calculations were wrong, Heun said. She opened her case and took out one of her rice plants. Would you like to test it? The photosyntheon stepped back. Keep your earth plants away from our clean labs. Du Young, show her to the human section. It walked away quickly, leaves rustling. Du Young grinned. You just met Chief Botanist Arbor. He's been telling everyone your rice was a luck accident. It wasn't luck. It was careful study and hard work. I know. Du Young led her down a corridor lined with clear tubes full of flowing water and swimming plants. But that's why they're scared. Humans solve problems differently. We try new things, take risks. They reached a door marked Earth Section. Inside was a small lab, much less grand than the ones they had passed, but it was clean and had good equipment. Your first task, Du Young said, is to develop a food plant that can feed multiple species. Something that can grow on any world, in any soil. He paused. Something impossible. Heaven set her rice plant on a bench. Why impossible? Because if humans solve this problem, the Council will have to accept Earth as an equal. The photosynthians won't be able to keep us out anymore. He touched one of the lab screens, bringing up images of different alien plants. They've been trying to create a universal food source for 200 years. Heaven studied the images. These are all separate attempts. No one tried combining them. Combining Earth plants with alien ones. Du Young shook his head. It's forbidden. Too dangerous, they say. Heaven looked at her rice plant, then at the alien specimens on the screen. She saw patterns, possibilities. What if that's the answer? Not one plant or the other, but something new. Something that takes the best from both. Du Young watched her carefully. That would be against station rules. The rules say we can't combine plants, but they don't say we can't study how they might work together. Heun smiled. I'd like to see all the failed experiments, please. Every single one. That's thousands of records. Good. The more failures we study, the closer we get to success. She was already setting up her equipment. After all, my rice failed 800 times before it worked. Du Young laughed. I'll get you those records. And Heun, welcome to the impossible job. Heun nodded, her mind already racing with ideas. The photosynthians thought humans were primitive. But sometimes, she thought, you had to think like a beginner to see what the experts had missed. Heun had been working in the lab for 3 weeks when she met Jaiho. He walked into her lab early one morning, carrying a box of glowing test tubes. His white coat had strange stains on it, and his hair looked like he had forgotten to comb it for days. I heard you needed a genetic engineer, he said, putting down the box. I brought some tools. Heun looked at the tubes. They contained DNA samples from various Earth plants. Where did you get these? I've been collecting them. The photosynthians don't pay attention to the human section. They don't think we can do real science. Jiho picked up one tube that glowed bright blue. This is from a desert cactus. It can live without water for years. Heun showed him her latest work. On her lab bench, several plants grew in special containers. They looked strange, like earth plants, but with slightly purple leaves. "I've been studying how alien plants handle different conditions," she explained. "They're amazing, but they only work on specific worlds." Jaiho nodded. "Because their genetics are too rigid. Earth plants adapt better." He held up the cactus DNA. "What if we could teach alien plants to be more like Earth plants?" "That would be against the rules," Hei-un said, but she was already thinking about the possibilities. "The rules say we can't mix the plants. They don't say we can't study how they work." Jiho grinned. "I'm good at finding these little gaps in the rules." They spent the next few hours planning. Jiho knew ways to study DNA that the photosynthians had never tried. Hei-un understood how plants adapted to new environments. Together, they might find answers that neither could find alone. "Look at this," Hei-un said, showing him data from her rice plants. "Earth plants change themselves to survive. Alien plants just die if things aren't perfect." Because their DNA is different, Jaiho agreed. He drew a simple picture showing how Earth plant DNA could bend and change, while alien plant DNA stayed fixed. "We need to find a way to teach them to be flexible." They worked through the day and into the night. Other humans brought them food and helped watch for photosynthian inspectors. Everyone knew what was at stake. Near midnight, they had their first breakthrough. In a small test tube, a tiny plant was growing. Its leaves were green with purple spots, and its stem was stronger than either Earth or alien plants. "It's beautiful," Hei-un whispered. The plant moved slightly, following her finger like a sunflower following light. "It's responding to human body heat," Jaiho said excitedly. "No plant has ever done that before. Not even photosynthian ones." They heard footsteps in the hallway. Quickly, they hid their notes and special equipment. Chief Botanist Arbor walked in, his leaves rustling with disapproval. "Working late?" he asked, looking around the lab with all three eyes. "Just checking my Earth plants," Hei-un said calmly. She stood in front of the test tube with their new plant. "Primitive work for primitive species," Arbor said. But he looked at their equipment carefully. "Remember, some experiments are not allowed here." After he left, Hei-un and Jaiho looked at their tiny plant. It was still growing, still reaching for them. "We'll need to be more careful," Jaiho said. Hei-un nodded. "But we won't stop. This little plant proves something important." She touched the test tube gently. "It proves that humans and aliens can work together to make something new, something better." "If they let us," Jaiho added. "They can't stop what they can't understand," Hei-un said. "And they don't understand how humans work." The plant in the tube grew another tiny leaf, this one perfectly balanced between earth green and alien purple. It was just the beginning, but it was hope growing in a test tube. The alarm woke Hei-un at 3 in the morning. She ran to the lab in her sleeping clothes, her heart beating fast. When she reached the door, she found Jaiho already there, looking through the window with a pale face. All their test plants were dead. How is this possible? Hei-un touched the brown, dried leaves of their newest hybrid. Just yesterday, it had been strong and healthy. Plants don't die this quickly on their own. "They don't," said a new voice. A woman in a black uniform stepped out of the shadows. She had short hair and moved like a cat. "Someone killed them." "Who are you?" Jaiho asked, stepping in front of Hei-un. "Acha, station security." She held up a small device that glowed blue. "Someone used a chemical that makes plants die fast. Very fast. But they didn't know my sensors would detect it." Hei-un looked at their dead plants again. 3 weeks of work, destroyed in one night. The photosynthians. "We can't prove it," Acha said. She walked around the lab, her device beeping softly. "But only they have access to this kind of chemical. They use it to clean their growing chambers." Jaiho started cleaning up the dead plants. "We kept good records. We can start again." "They'll just destroy them again," Hei-un said. She felt angry and tired. "They're afraid of what we might achieve." Acha touched her device to one of the walls. It beeped loudly. "They should be afraid. Your plants were working, weren't they?" growing in ways their plants can't. Haevan and Jaiho looked at each other. They hadn't told anyone about their success. I watch everything on this station, Acha said. It's my job to know what happens here, including when humans make breakthroughs that scare the photosynthians. Can you help us? Haevan asked. Acha smiled. I already am. Starting now, this lab has new security. Cameras, sensors, and a few other things. She pointed to spots on the walls where small devices were appearing. Try to destroy these plants now, and alarms will wake up the whole station. Won't the photosynthians complain? Jaiho asked. Let them. H's smile grew wider. They'll have to explain why they're so interested in a primitive human lab. Haevan started setting up new growing containers. We'll need to work faster. They won't stop trying to interfere. No, they won't, Acha agreed. But now we have proof they're scared of human science. And scared people make mistakes. They worked through the rest of the night, replanting their experiments. This time, Haevan added something new, some of her saltwater rice genes. If they want to play rough, she said, let's show them how Earth plants survive in harsh conditions. Jaiho looked at the new plants through his microscope. These are different, stronger. The alien DNA is actually learning from the Earth DNA. Like humans learning from our mistakes, Acha said. She was setting up her last security device. Every time they try to stop you, you'll come back better. Haevan watched their new plants beginning to sprout. They looked stronger already, with thicker stems and hardier leaves. The photosynthians thought they could stop human progress by destroying a few plants. They didn't understand that on Earth, the strongest plants were the ones that faced the hardest challenges. Let them try to kill these, she said softly. These plants are ready for a fight. 2 months had passed since the sabotage attempt, and Haevan's lab had changed. The new plants grew in special containers behind clear security shields. H's sensors blinked quietly from every corner. Most importantly, a tall man in formal diplomatic clothes now stood in the lab, examining their latest success. Remarkable, Sun-Ki said, adjusting his glasses as he studied the hybrid plant. It grew in a container filled with red soil from Mars, its leaves shimmering with both earth green and alien purple. And it can grow in any soil. Any soil, any atmosphere, any light level, Jaiho explained. He showed Sun-Ki the data on his screen. It adapts within hours to new conditions. No plant has ever done that before. Haevan touched the plant's container gently. It combines Earth plants' ability to adapt with alien plants' quick growth. The photosynthians said it was impossible, but we did it. Sun-Ki nodded slowly. The council wants to see it. They called a special meeting tomorrow. He looked serious. The photosynthians are trying to claim your work as their own. They say you could only have succeeded with their guidance. That's not true, Jaiho said angrily. They tried to stop us at every step. We know, Sun-Ki said calmly. Acha has provided evidence of their interference, but now they're using political tricks. They say humans aren't ready to share credit for such an important discovery. Haevan looked at her plants. They were beautiful, growing strong despite everything the photosynthians had done to stop them. Like the humans on the station, they refused to give up. Then we'll show them exactly how we did it, she said. Every step, every failure, every success. We'll prove this came from human innovation. And Earth plants, Jaiho added. He brought up more data. Look at the DNA. The alien plants learned from Earth plants. They became stronger by working together, just like we did. Sun-Ki smiled for the first time. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. He opened his briefcase and took out some papers. The council meeting isn't just about your plants. It's about Earth joining the galactic community. Your work could open the door for all humanity. Haevan felt the weight of this news. What had started as a simple research project had become something much bigger. She looked at her team, Jaiho with his messy hair and brilliant mind, Acha watching silently from her security station, Sun-Ki with his diplomatic skills. They had all played a part. We'll need to prepare carefully for tomorrow, Sun-Ki said. The photosyntheons will try to confuse the council with technical terms and political arguments. Then we'll keep it simple, Hei-un said. We'll show them the plant growing in different soils. We'll demonstrate how it adapts. The results will speak for themselves. Jaiho started gathering their research notes. I'll prepare the growth demonstrations. They can't argue with what they see with their own eyes. Acha stepped forward. I'll make sure no one interferes with the evidence before the meeting. Sun-Ki watched them work with approval. This is why humans will succeed out here, he said softly. We work together. We adapt. We find ways to solve problems that others think are impossible. Hae-un checked on her original saltwater rice plant, still growing strong in its container. From that first breakthrough to these new hybrid plants, the message was the same. Sometimes the best solutions came from being underestimated, from having to work harder and think differently. Tomorrow they would show the council what humans could do. But today, watching her team prepare, Hae-un already felt like they had succeeded. They had proved that humans belonged among the stars. The council chamber was a large round room at the heart of the botanical nexus. Hae-un stood at the center with her team, surrounded by representatives from 20 alien species. The photosyntheons sat in the highest seats, their leaves rustling with disapproval. You claim these plants are your creation, Chief Botanist Arbor said. His 3 yellow eyes glowed with anger. Yet you worked in our facility, used our equipment, studied our research. We used basic equipment in the human section, Hae-un replied calmly. She pointed to the display where their hybrid plant grew in 5 different containers. Each container held soil from a different world. The plant thrived in all of them. Impossible, another photosyntheon said. No single plant can grow in all those environments. Our research proves it cannot be done. Your research was incomplete. Jaiho stepped forward with their data. You never considered that Earth plants might have qualities your plants lack. Sun-Ki spoke next, his diplomatic training showing in his steady voice. The human team has prepared a complete demonstration. Please observe. Hae-un took a small device from her pocket. When she pressed a button, the environment in each container changed. One became very hot, another freezing cold. The air pressure changed in the others. Everyone watched as the hybrid plants responded. Within minutes, the plants had changed. Their leaves adjusted their shape and color. Their stems grew stronger or more flexible. They adapted to survive. This is the key, Hae-un explained. Earth plants learn to adapt because our world constantly changes. Hot summers, cold winters, floods, droughts. Our plants had to learn to survive it all. A younger photosyntheon named Chloris moved to examine the plants more closely. They are changing their very structure, she said with wonder. Like living machines rebuilding themselves. That's what life does on Earth, Hae-un said. It adapts, it survives. We didn't create this ability. We learned it from studying Earth's plants. Arbor stood up angrily. These humans are taking credit for our work. They must have stolen our research. Acha stepped forward then. Actually, she said, pressing a button on her security device. We have evidence of something quite different. The chamber screens lit up with security recordings. They showed photosyntheon scientists trying to destroy the human team's work. The council chamber filled with shocked whispers. We did not steal anything, Hae-un said firmly. We succeeded because we tried something new, something you thought was impossible, because you never considered that humans might have something to teach you. Chloris turned to face the council. I have studied their work. It is genuine, and it could help countless worlds grow food in places we thought were hopeless. The council chamber grew quiet. Sun-Ki took this moment to make their final point. The human team has not only created something new, he said, they have proved that cooperation between species leads to greater achievements than working alone. Hae-un looked at her plants, still growing strong despite the extreme conditions they faced. Like her team, they had faced doubt and opposition. Like humanity itself, they had proved their worth through actions rather than words. The council began to discuss among themselves. Whatever they decided, Hae-un knew they had shown what humans could do. They had turned doubt into discovery, opposition into opportunity. The harvest of their work was growing right in front of everyone's eyes, impossible to deny. The news came 3 days after the council presentation. Du-young rushed into Hae-eun's lab early in the morning, holding a datapad with shaking hands. "You need to see this," he said, showing her the screen. "It's about the photosynthean colonies in the outer rim." Hae-eun read the report carefully. 3 photosynthean farming colonies were failing. Their crops were dying, and millions of people might go hungry. The soil on their worlds had suddenly changed, becoming too acidic for their traditional plants. They kept this secret, Du-young explained. They didn't want anyone to know their farming methods weren't working. Jae-ho looked up from his workstation. "Our hybrid plants could grow there. They adapt to acid soil easily." "The photosynthians won't ask for help," Hae-eun said. "They're too proud." "Then we don't wait for them to ask." Du-young smiled. "We show them." Over the next few days, they ran tests. They created special versions of their hybrid plants designed for the colony worlds. The plants grew strong in soil exactly like the failing colonies had. They even produced more food than the photosynthian crops had in good conditions. Acha helped them gather more information about the colonies. "The situation is worse than they're admitting," she said. "They have maybe 2 months before the food runs out." Soon-ki spent long hours in meetings with council members. "Many species are worried," he reported. "If the photosynthians can't grow food, it affects everyone." Hae-eun worked harder than ever. She remembered what her old director had said about her rice plants. Sometimes the simplest solutions were the most brilliant. Their hybrid plants weren't just surviving in the acid soil. They were making it better. The roots cleaned the soil as they grew. One evening, Chloris came to their lab. The young photosynthian looked troubled. "The council is meeting again tomorrow," she said. "Chief Arbor still won't admit there's a problem with the colonies. But others are starting to speak up." "Will you help us?" Hae-eun asked. "We need someone from your species to support our solution." Chloris touched one of the hybrid plants gently. "My family lives on one of those colonies," she said quietly. "I care more about saving them than about politics." The next morning, they presented their findings to the council again. This time, Chloris stood with them. She showed images from the colonies, dying crops, worried faces, empty food storage rooms. "We have a solution," Hae-eun said. She showed their latest hybrid plants. "These won't just survive on your colony worlds. They'll help clean the soil and make it good again." "This is human interference," Arbor shouted. "We cannot trust their primitive methods." "Primitive." Chloris's voice was strong. "They solved in days what we couldn't solve in months. They didn't just find a way to grow food. They found a way to heal our worlds." The council chamber filled with discussion. Hae-eun watched the faces around her. Some looked angry, some looked hopeful. But most importantly, they were all talking about human innovation, about human solutions to problems that affected everyone. "The roots of these plants go deep," she said quietly to her team, "just like the connections we're building here. Change is coming, whether they're ready or not." 1 month later, Hae-eun stood in the observation dome of the Botanical Nexus, watching ships leave for the photosynthian colonies. Each ship carried thousands of hybrid plant seedlings, the plants that would save millions of lives. "The first reports are coming in from the colonies," Soon-ki said, joining her at the window. "The plants are growing even better than we expected. The soil is already showing signs of recovery." Hae-eun smiled. "And how are the photosynthians handling it?" "Chief Arbor resigned this morning," Soon-ki replied. "Chloris will take his place." The council voted unanimously. Jae-ho walked in, carrying new data readings. "You should see this," he said excitedly. "The hybrid plants aren't just cleaning the soil. They're teaching the native plants how to adapt. It's like they're sharing their earth genes." "Life finds a way," Hae-eun said softly. She remembered her saltwater rice, growing strong in impossible conditions. Now their new plants were doing the same thing across the galaxy. Do-young entered next, followed by Acha. They both looked happy. "The council has made their final decision," Do-young announced. "Earth has been granted full membership in the galactic community." "But that's not all," Acha added. "They want to build a new research center. a place where humans and aliens can work together to solve agricultural problems. And they want you to lead it, Heaven. Heaven turned away from the window in surprise. Me? You proved that cooperation is stronger than competition, Soon-Ki explained. Your team showed how different species can work together to create something new. Something better than any of us could make alone. Through the dome's clear walls, Helen could see all 6 sections of the station. In each one, plants from Earth now grew alongside alien species. The strict separation was ending. Like their hybrid plants, the station itself was adapting to a new way of doing things. I'll accept, she said, but on one condition. The whole team stays together. Already arranged, Soon-Ki smiled. The council insisted on it. They said the combination of talents was essential to the success. Jai-Ho laughed. Like the combination of plant genes. Exactly, a new voice said. Chloris entered the dome, her leaves shimmering with her species' version of happiness. My people have much to learn about adaptation, about accepting new ideas and new ways of thinking. We all do, Hei-Un said. She touched the dome's glass. Out there, countless worlds waited for help, problems to solve, new combinations to try. That's what makes it exciting. The team gathered around a table where their first successful hybrid plant still grew. It had become stronger over time, just like their friendship, just like humanity's place among the stars. To new beginnings, Soon-Ki proposed. To cooperation, Chloris added. To impossible things, Hei-Un finished, looking at her team, human and alien together. Through the dome, the stars shone bright and clear. Somewhere out there on distant worlds, their plants were taking root, growing, adapting, helping life flourish in places where nothing could grow before. Just like humanity itself, finally taking its place in the larger community of space, growing, adapting, ready to bloom.